Hello everyone, this is Pooka, and welcome to another game I played on the Pokemon Trading Card Game Online. And in this game, we're going to be using one of the decks I enjoy using quite a bit, and that is the Flareon deck that Dylan Bryan used at the World Championships this past year. I lost to Jason Kozinski in the top 16, but it was one of the most unique decks we've seen in a long time. And it's kind of carried over into this next format as a legitimate deck, so I love playing with it a lot. It has a few weaknesses, but for the most part it is actually a fairly strong deck, and it's a lot of fun to play as well. So it looks like I'm going to be going second. My opponent did mulligan, and I saw cards for a typical Blastoise deck. So it looks like we are going up against a Blastoise, Keldeo, possibly Black Kyurem EX as well. That kind of a deck. So this is normally actually a decent matchup for the Flareon deck for two reasons. Number one, it has Garbodor, which if you get a Pokemon tool on it like that Float Stone in my hand, you can use Garbotoxin to shut off your opponent's abilities, mainly Blastoise's Deluge, to cut off the energy acceleration, and then they won't be able to use those expensive attacks repeatedly, like Keldeo EX's Secret Sword, or Black Kyurem EX's Black Ballista. So when they don't have the ability to do that, they're just kind of too slow and don't really do enough damage. I mean, they get to attack maybe once and then you'll knock them out because they take so darn long to power up without Blastoise. So that's number one. Number two, you do use a lot of non-EX attackers, which means they're going to have to knock out 6 Pokemon unless you're unfortunate enough to have to put Landorus EX into play. And right here, I'm actually playing an Ultra Ball, discarding 2 Pokemon, and we're going to actually just take another Pokemon that I don't want to put into play. And number one is going to be Landorus EX. I do not want him in play. He is really bad against water Pokemon, weak to water, and it's an EX as well. So we're going to play a Professor Juniper and just discard that. With this deck, you want to aim to discard as many Pokemon as possible in the early going to fuel Flareon's Vengeance. It does 20 damage plus 10 for each Pokemon in your discard pile. So over the course of the game, you're hoping to get enough Pokemon to knock things out in one hit with Vengeance. Here I do get a, well, not the greatest hand in the world. I get an Ultra Ball, and then I have a Fighting and a Flareon as well. But I really don't have any supporters to back it up, so I'm going to have to hope my opponent plays an N, or possibly I top deck a supporter card next turn to get some more cards in my hand. But I can send out Eevee and use Signs of Evolution. I guess reason 2A or 2B, whatever, that this is good against Blastoise is Leafeon. It has Energy Crush, does 20 damage times the number of energy my opponent has in play, and Keldeo EX is weak to Grass. So if they have 5 energy in play, for 1 energy you can use Energy Crush and do 200 damage to knock out a Keldeo EX, and that is pretty good. Fortunately, my opponent plays an N there, and I get to shuffle in and draw a new hand of 6, so that works out extremely well for me. And we'll see if my opponent can get that dreaded turn to Blastoise. You know, the rare candy Blastoise would be huge here, but it looks like no. Just going to use that Tropical Beach that he puts out, and now it'll be back to me. So I avoided the one thing that would be problematic, the turn to Blastoise. And I'm going to kind of go for the jugular here. We're going to catch her out, that Squirtle, play an N, and hopefully I draw a Leafeon. And there it is, got the Leafeon and also an Ultra Ball. So that worked out pretty well. And we can go ahead and Ultra Ball away the Mr. Mime and the Enhanced Hammer. Get another Pokemon in the discard pile. And then I'll also get to grab Garbodor. So this is a very, very big turn 2 for me. I got both Leafeon and Garbodor. And we can Energy Crush this Squirtle for 80 since it is weak to Grass. And we also shut off abilities with Garbotoxin. So this is just all around one incredible turn. But once again, I'm left with no supporter. This time, though, I do have that Tropical Beach to fall back on in case I really don't draw anything. So everything's going well for me right now. We do see a Tool Scrapper, though. It's going to discard the Float Stone off of Garbodor and give my opponent abilities back. Unfortunately, my opponent doesn't really have any abilities to use right now, so that may have been a waste. Normally, with Blastoise, you try to wait to use the Tool Scrapper at the last moment, and then you get to use your abilities and such. Or you just try to catch or out Garbodor and knock it out with Secret Sword. But it looks like my opponent just decided to play a Tool Scrapper and hit my Leafeon for 90. It does resist water. It's pretty good against Keldeo. And then I got a Professor Juniper, get to discard even more Pokemon. So right now this deck is flowing very well. And the reason you don't want to play a Tool Scrapper without using abilities is right here. I just get to attach another Float Stone, and now abilities are gone again, and my opponent really didn't do anything with that turn of being able to use abilities. So you got to be wary of that. Even if you have Tool Scrapper against Garbodor, it doesn't always work. You do have to use it properly. But here my opponent plays a Skyla. I am assuming this will be for a Pokemon catcher to eliminate my Garbodor once and for all. Take that out of play. And again, my opponent really had no need to play that Tool Scrapper earlier. A Pokemon catcher here would have been just fine, and then a Tool Scrapper could have been used later on in the game. But that's neither here nor there. I mean, that's in the past. So now we're just trying to look. We're in a very good position. My opponent actually played an Ultra Ball and discarded a Tool Scrapper on the first turn, and then played that second one already. So I'm going to assume there may be a Dowsing Machine left, but 2 Tool Scrappers is usually where you draw the line in Blastoise decks. I had never really seen one playing 3. But we do have a Rare Candy and a Blastoise here. Opponent grabbed this Superior Energy Retrieval with that Skyla. Kind of strange. I don't think my opponent will be able to really use that this turn. And here's a Computer Search as well. Probably going to get that Pokemon catcher at this point. Just knock out my Garbodor and regain abilities. But, you know, I'm happy with this. My opponent has to take a turn to catch your Garbodor. The key to this Flareon deck is kind of just buying enough time. Get enough time to get enough Pokemon in the discard pile, so eventually Flareon can maximize damage for Vengeance. Each turn you buy is just more Pokemon you can get in the discard pile. Look, discarding 2 more here. And eventually, you're going to start doing enough damage to knock things out in one hit. And I was fortunate enough to get another Garbodor with another Pokemon tool this turn. And we can just Energy Crush this Keldeo. And that's honestly going to crush my opponent's hopes and dreams right there. Gonna knock out Keldeo, take away all the energy, and abilities are gone. So now my opponent is reduced to manually attaching. And I think most people would agree that Blastoise is one of the best decks in the format. Tier 1 for sure. Hands down, just an incredibly strong deck. But you can see right here, this Flareon deck is taking it right to it. I have honestly drawn pretty well this game. Everything has flowed pretty well. But, I mean, this can happen. And Flareon is just... I mean, it can hang with the big boys. That's all there is to it. I knew there were 12 Pokemon in my discard pile here, so Vengeance is going to do 140 damage. So I may as well just take out the Blastoise here. Take away any option of maybe, well, I know my opponent played Computer Search, so Dowsing Machine was an option. But on the off chance there was a third Tool Scrapper, I might as well just get rid of the Blastoise and say, you know what? We'll just take that out. Now, even if you have a Tool Scrapper, doesn't matter. And you can see we've pretty much dominated this whole game with Leafeon and Flareon. These cards are... I know Flareon is an uncommon card, but it's extremely strong when everything gets going. And, yeah, my opponent says GG. I attach a Silver Bangle and do 170 with Vengeance to win the game. And just like that, Flareon takes down a Blastoise deck. So I really do like this deck. I think it's pretty fun. And it's pretty powerful as well. Allows for a lot of creative plays. So hope you enjoyed this video. I'll definitely have some more for you guys soon. I am Pooka from the Top Cut, and I'll see you guys next time.